Hello, from fans. How's everybody doing on this wonderful Sunday? And if you're like me, there's a big, huge void in your life where your favorite show used to be. And every Sunday, when it would come on, you would tune in and watch the mystery as it unfolds in the town of Fromville. I'm the movie guru, and even though season 2, episode 10 has come and the finale has wrapped up, there are still people out there who want to review, watch, and uncover the mysteries of our favorite show from. And so on this show, that's exactly what I'm gonna do this week since our show is finished and even though season 3 has been announced, we don't know when it will come back. Now, one of the reasons we don't know if it'll come back is because the writer's strike. There's a writer strike going on in Hollywood where the writers are asking for a better contract. Different various Hollywood organizations have shown their support. The most recent one being SAG. SAG is the organization that works with actors in the union's capacity and helps them get fair wages, fair treatment, lunch schedules, and just whatever actors may need to be fully represented while they're on set. And then also, the Producers Guild has also made a statement in regards to the writer's strike. And so I want to talk about a couple of things and see if these things will connect and who the writers are, what part of the strike affects from, and can it be resolved? As well as, of course, watch some clips of from. And so let's start from the beginning. I'm just going to go to IMDb and check out what they have to offer. So here it is. All right. So this is from on IMDb, and this is an official website, internet movie database that gives you all the information for shows. So here it talks about the full cast and crew, who are the directors. Now, most people are familiar with Jack Bender. Jack Bender is one of the more notable names on this production crew list that has industry experience and I believe has done some of the writing. And one way I was able to tell what the episode was going to be during the seasons is each new episode, each new week, go to IMDb and see who directed it. And if Jack Bender directed one of the episodes, then I always knew from there it was going to be an impactful episode, meaning pushing the storyline forward, not just continuing in the perils that they're in. And as you can see, there was other directors as well. So there's Brad Turner, and excuse me if I butcher anybody's names. Sometimes in my Jersey accent doesn't allow me to fully pronunciate. Jennifer Liao, Jeff Renfro, and Alexandra LaRoche. And so those were some other directors who directed the episodes with Jack Bender. Now, as far as writing, John Griffin, who is the show creator, also from Lost, is the main writer on From. So he created it, and it says right here he created all 20 episodes. So that would be 10 season one and then 10 in season two. Now it says story. So he created it, he did the story play, he did the script teleplay. That's what that would mean. The script, written 3 episodes, story by, and then Jeff Pinkner. Jeff Pinkner is the other one. And then there's Vivian Lee. So she wrote 4 episodes and she has one consulting producer credit. And then there's Javier Grillo Maruch. He wrote 2 episodes. And so those are the writers. And so the best thing I think would be to find out, just how uh, it's affecting them is to go to their social media and see if they are posting protests or just what their social media is saying about their stance. I think this is a very polarizing topic where a lot of people have to draw a line in the sand, and you'll know either right away they're participating or not. So let's see. So who is John Griffin? He is one of the writers. And let's see, I'm just bringing this page up now. All right, so here is his Instagram. And so he's being very quiet on this topic. So as you see, his last post was June 25th, which I believe was the last day of the season finale. So here we go, one last time for season two. And so he's been keeping it pretty PG, right? He has not been posting anything outside of the show because in reality he gets affected a lot too if the writers go on strike, and they're not making, but if others are supporting that cause from SAG and then from the producers, him being a creator, writer, and producer, he's really in all three buckets. So he doesn't look like he's taking the writing stand, because he probably, honestly, he probably has the best contract, right? He has those three things up his sleeve. He has the best contract. He's getting, a large chunk. So I'm sure he's like, man, my contract is solid. But also, if you notice about the strike, they're really talking about Netflix. There is a list of the top companies that they're talking about, and I'm not sure that MGM and Paramount are on there, right? So that's also another point to this writer's strike. They're really just talking about Netflix and a couple other places. So I'm going to go back. And so I think I have my other screen up, but I'm gonna go back and just, like I said, he hasn't really been vocal on this topic, but of course he has the most to gain from it. And while I was looking on his page, I found Ethan. If you guys know Ethan, his name is Simon Webster, and I wasn't aware. I'm actually not following him. I'll go ahead and follow him right now. So he's a SAG after actor. So let's see if his page. All right, he's just getting a lot of compliments. I think he's a little bit too young to be commenting. I think he's probably really just seeing which way it goes. And I'm sure this is not even his real Twitter page. I'm sure this is like his mom or somebody just posting stuff every once in a while. I don't necessarily think he's, got his phone and, you know, maintaining this. So nothing on his page, nothing on Jack Griffin's page. And so let's go to someone else. Let's go to Jeff Pinkner. All right, so here's Jeff Pinkner's Twitter. Jeff Pinkner is one of the writers, and he's the showrunner. So him being a showrunner, he has dual roles. From is a show on MGM, and I believe I'm sure it's a license to be on Amazon because you can't find it on Amazon. And so right now I'm just looking at his Twitter to see what he has posted to see where he stands, because we're trying to see who are the writers and how the writer strike affects the show. Okay, so here we go. So on July 13th, so today when I'm doing this video is July 16th, and so 3 days ago he retweeted this. So he did not post this. So he reposted or retweeted. If I understood it correctly, SAG's proposal for tying steaming residuals to viewership by designating a residual pool for at each streamer and divvying it up by viewership percentage is a really smart and workable solution to a difficult problem. I hope the WGA and DGA emulate it. Okay. So SAG, so this guy must be an actor. He's a screenwriter. Okay, so he's a part of the writer strike. And it looks like he's written on things like Thor, X-Men, First Class, The Flash, Rim of the World, Jurassic World, Camp Cretaceous, and a couple other films, and he has a novel. So he's in the industry, and so he has a voice. He's part of the strike. He's paid his union dues, and so he's putting out there that his support. So tying streaming residuals to viewership. So meaning that if you put a show on Netflix and it becomes number one, and let's say it just gets a billion streams, there's a residual pool, and they divvy up by viewership. So meaning that if they get a billion views, that turns into, let's say, 800 billion or 880 million, then the writers get a part of that. So let's see. So it looks like he's following some other people too. Pega Gofari and Cortian Moore also on the show. So let's click on their pages and see if they're posting anything. He's posting some awards, how the show's up for best cable drama series, as they should. But this is a tough category. But this is the Hollywood Critics Association, so the critics can choose correctly. So it looks like he's just been keeping it PG as well. He hasn't been vocal outside of reposting clips from the show. He really isn't being vocal on the SAG, but he also might not be a SAG member because the show is filmed in Canada. And so he would have to be a part of the Canadian Screen Actors Guild. Like maybe it's CSAG. And so he would have to be a part of them. So let's see. Let's go back to him. Let's see what Pega. And so she might be from Canada as well. And that's what I'm saying. Like it may not affect the show because I believe at one time, real fans of the show know that the show has moved around a bit, right? It started on Epics, and then it went to MGM, and then for MGM it went to Amazon. I'm sure through licensing. But at first, there was word when the show was first announced that Harold Perrineau was tagged to it, and John Griffin and some of the Lost. It was developed for YouTube Red. Now, YouTube Red was the YouTube network where you could watch, I guess, TV shows specifically created content for them. And I think they really started things like Red Table Talk and stuff like that. But the show, the network was, I guess, passed off to Epics. And so she's been keeping it pretty PG as well, not being vocal on the topic, but once again, she might be from Canada. Now let's see if Ricky pretty much the same thing, keeping it PG. He might be Canadian as well. Okay, let's see, Chloe. Now Chloe's a real nurse. She's a real nurse and an actress. I'm sure that helps. Okay. No, she's keeping it pretty PG as well. All right, so let's go back and try to check out some of the writers on the show. And once again, I was trying to figure out, what's going on with the strike, who are the writers, and then what part of the strike affects from. So is it the actors who are taking a stance with SAG, but the show is done in Canada, and so the actors might not be SAG members; they might be Canadian SAG. And then we looked at John Griffin, who is the creator and main writer. He hasn't really posted anything. Jeff Pinkner reposted or retweeted from someone else, but he hasn't posted anything specifically. And so let's keep looking and see who else we can go to from the show. So Vivian Lee, she is another writer on the show. Let's see. Scroll back up. So here she is confirmed writer on the show. Also, looks like she did Cowboy Bebop, Lost in Space, The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, and Stitchers. I would say I'm not really familiar with Stitchers, but Cowboy Bebop. I mean, I think they kept the storyline pretty much standard to Cowboy Bebop fans, but it just the quality and the look just didn't match up. I think that the people just weren't ready for that level of live action anime adaptation yet. So here's her Twitter. She's got some retweets. Okay, look. So she says she retweeted here. British Columbia actors to vote down proposed contract extension. So they've got their own contract, and I guess their SAG is AMPTP. And it says here Tayana Mansley, Elliot Page, Martin Short, who signed an open letter urging to not members to say no to the offer. So they're in negotiations as well. All right, so it looks like, yeah, I mean that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, if you're one of those shows that is international, crossing over, and you do the work out of one country, I believe it would depend on the country negotiations there, regardless of when it airs here in America. But it looks like some of the cast is SAG, and some of the cast is Canadian actors. So it looks like they're doing negotiations in both countries. So that could be a positive. That could be an effect. Um, the only other variable in this situation would be if John Griffin has already got season three done, right? I mean, and let's say the Canadian contracts are not as steep as the SAG contracts. Let's say that they reach in a Canadian agreement, they can start filming in Canada, and it necessarily won't affect it. Now they do have, I'm sure Harold Pernaut is SAG, and I should go to his page. Actually, I'll go to his page too. And so Harold Pernaut will be the main person who has the power to really keep the show going or put it on pause. And he's an American. He is SAG. So here's a retweet from one of the writers. She says, so Bob Iger has a success metric built into his contract, meaning that he gets paid more when business goes well. Okay, most CEOs, vice presidents do. But when the writers and actors brought up a success metric for our work, the studios laughed us out the room. Damn. Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's horrible to hear, first of all. I mean, you create a book, right? The intention is for that book to sell for more than just that one day and you to get residuals. I mean, if you're a writer on a show, it would pretty much be the same thing. You would expect to get some sort of residuals that are lucrative to support what you do. I mean, especially with costs still going up with everything. But I think one thing though they have not talked about is, and I'm not sure how the writer's pay structure is set up, but how much do you get paid for writing on a show? Like from I'm sure it's a lot, I'm sure like okay, you sign a contract, you get a salary for writing, and then you would get I'm guessing you would get a contract. And so you might get what 50,000 up front as a writer on from, and then what 5,000 a week, you know, I don't know how it goes. If anybody knows, please put in the comments. I would love to know the specifics of Hollywood contract writing, and that might be something I look into to see if they get paid up front and if they get residuals while they're writing, and then how does it work, for the residuals when the show airs. So let's see if she posted anything else. Okay, so there I have seen some tweets and videos. I think Ron Perlman was pretty vocal about some of the execs saying that they're gonna fight this and wait until people start losing their homes. And so this is pretty much what the play is on here. So Vivian Lee, one of the writers, is saying the Hollywood CEOs saying they want writers and actors to lose their homes. So they're saying they're gonna hold out until homes start going to foreclosure, which I mean, you get a notification after 1 month missing your mortgage, 6 months, start the process, 12 months, you would be in full foreclosure. So that's 12 months if they're talking about people in their homes. Here's Harold Pernaut page. Now, this is a retweet from Vivian Lee on the 14th. When I'm writing this, this is July 16th. So this was 2 days ago. He said, "Hey, Twitter fan, can I get a little help support my bill, AB 907? Get Gavin Newsom's attention. Very close to heart, helping the children of California get insurance." So he's not even really making a statement about SAG. Okay, but here we go. We're on it. I'm on his page. And I just saw a post. I'll go up here. So he posted this. He said he stands with SAG. I want to actually go to it.
What if it's all just a dream? What if all this...
Okay, so on July 13th, he also posted this. He said, "Solidarity, SAG after strong." So he's saying that he stands with SAG. So, I mean, that pretty much, investigate what's going on with the show behind the show, where you see Canadian Screen Actors Guild has their own negotiations. SAG, United States, has their own negotiations. And then now you see a couple of actors from the show taking a stand, and Harold, being the big one, has posted on his page that he is in solidarity with SAG. So that means a lot uh, with what's going on with him. And so I want to play this clip because a lot of conversations about what does it mean now that the actors, writers are on strike. So let's see. I do have a clip on my YouTube page that I think really sums it up, and I want you guys to be able to see and hear this, and it kind of breaks down what it means when the actors are on strike.
With Variety, and I'm here to break down what SAG members, aka actors, can and can't do while they're on strike. The biggest things when it comes to press is they're not allowed to do any promotional appearances right now. So no tours, interviews, conventions, FYC events, fan expos, festivals, etc. This definitely affects Comic-Con. In addition to not being able to do any on-camera work, including acting, singing, and dancing, they also can't do ADR or voice acting or narration. SAG members also cannot do background work, stand-in work, fittings, or interviews or auditions, including self-tapes. They're also not allowed to enter into new agreements to do future work. With Variety, and I'm here to break down what SAG members, aka actors,
Man.
If I'm wrong,
She put it all together. She pretty much put it all together as far as what can happen and can't happen with SAG. I mean, the main thing for me and my channel is the interviews, right? The interviews was one thing that I was working on and really trying to complete, interviewing the full cast, and Harold was on my list. But now seeing that he stands with the SAG writer strike, that means that he can't do no interviews, he can't do any Comic Cons. It said no background work, and it said no going into negotiations for new contracts for future work. So even though maybe that's why they put the announcement for season 3 out, and I can see now if you're a studio exec, right, you know that I'm sure they knew about that this was coming for a while. And so I'm sure that's why they scheduled the season how they did, and of course wanted to end it before the strike because they don't want to be in mid production or even mid rolling when they're on strike. We've seen that happen before with Lost, and that didn't work out well. That's why we got those 3 seasons that were pretty much nothing. And it seems like they put that out right before or right when the strike might have first started to already have it in place. Maybe they also did their actor negotiations at that time, so they might be obligated to return, even if the SAG after strike is not completed. And the reason why they would be able to get away with that would be the Canadian Screen Actors Guild. Depends on them being in negotiations, how long their negotiations go, and if they can come to a resolution. But it seems like Harold is going to stand with SAG, and he probably won't be, even if it is negatively against him and his contracts for Canada, for the show to be shot in Canada. So there's a lot going on. So I'm guessing to answer my question, what part of the strike affects from? I mean, the writers, not I wouldn't say the writer's strike because John Griffin is the primary writer. There's 3 others. And then but the SAG strike affects them. And it looks like the Canadian negotiation that affects them as well. So the next thing I want to look at is, can this be resolved? Right? I think that's a big question. Like, we all know that there's things going on with this, but can it be resolved? And so I want to look at Fran Drescher when she gave the speech and talked about exactly what was going on. I'm gonna see if I can find a quick one. Some of these are pretty long, but see if I can find a quick breakdown of what she was talking about. Here's a short.
I cannot believe it, how far apart we are on so many things, how they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. It is disgusting. Shame on them. They stand on the wrong side of history. We stand in solidarity, in unprecedented unity. Our union and our sister unions and the unions around the world are standing by us because at some point the jig is up. The entire business model has been changed by streaming, digital, AI. This is a moment of history. If we don't stand tall right now, we are all going to be in jeopardy of being replaced by machines and big business. Who cares more about Wall Street than you and your family? I cannot believe it, how far apart we are on so many things. How
Yeah, so her big speech was really about the AI, right? That was the clips that I saw, and I haven't watched her full speech, but I do know a big chunk of it was the AI involvement with the films. So a good way to put it, Black Mirror is another anthology show that comes on Netflix. They had a clip called Fran is Awful, or what was the girl's name? But it basically is a rabbit hole of AI, right? So you've got a person who signed a streaming user agreement to just watch the streaming. It's called Streamberry, but it's like the Netflix. They're using her image likeliness and data to basically recreate her day-to-day drama, and then those people are actors, and then they have an AI model over them to make them look different. So it's like an Inception type of 3D type of thing, right? And you think it's Selma Hayek, but it's not. But Selma Hayek, who is in there, her likeliness was included in the contract, and they could use it any way they wanted. And so that's pretty much where they're at with this real life strike, because the AI contract or AI info is basically saying, like, hey, once we have your likeliness, we can use it as many times as we want without any type of residual payment. And this was going for actors and background actors as well. And I can relate to that, and it's crazy that affects me because I do background work from time to time. I've been in a couple of movies just doing background stuff, and they called me back. I had multiple days set up for my character, and each day, it got paid, especially with during times of COVID. We got paid for each COVID test. Had to take two before the actual day, and then um, the day you get your day rate. And then there was other additional dates where sometimes you couldn't shoot that day, but because we were still scheduled, we still got paid, and we had to start the COVID test process again and got paid for each one. But it is a process that I wasn't mad at, right? I mean, being there, showing up, being on set, what they call doing the work. And so I definitely would feel different about that if it had only been one day. Like I said, I went 10 days in a row. And so I would be a little bit upset if it was just, all right, scan you 360. All right, thanks a lot for your time. And then that was all that there was. And then I found myself in over 100 movies uncredited with, no, not getting paid. I mean, that would be a nightmare. So, I mean, I can realistically sympathize with that and say, yeah, they're bugging for that one. Yeah, they're bugging for that one. All right. And so, can this be resolved? I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at now. So let's see. There's a couple of articles that I found that were talking about it. And so I think this is a good one. Okay, so what the writer strikes mean for entertainment today. So Hollywood has been hit with the first strike in 15 years, and it may not end the way the last one did. That does not mean the writers don't have a legitimate cause or the audiences don't deserve better than the rebooted and woke pap that studios have been serving up of late. Although most people probably haven't noticed yet, there's a writer strike. For the first time being, the main programs affected have been late night and daytime talk shows. If the strike continues, more productions that more people care about will be affected. Many insiders are predicting that this strike has the potential to last months and cause over larger disruptions in the entertainment industry. Upon hearing this, people will still might shrug. So many options coming from all over the world, it's difficult to imagine any significant change to scripted entertainment today. In many ways, the strike writers are simply experiencing that many other workers have experienced as a result of globalization and automation. Whereas film producers had no choice but to work with the Writers Guild in the past, they now can outsource or automate much of their work done by union members, even screenwriting. Okay, so this is deeper than just the AI that's used. This is also going to the AI scripting, the AI voice, and just create your own 3 AI scene with characters. So they're basically like the whole acting gig is up. Okay, so that's why they're mad. So it doesn't help that many of the writers have become excessively political and lazy with their stories. In too many cases, bad writing was a major factor in bringing down formerly popular franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, or DC, turning it into shameless left-wing propaganda and/or sloppy formulaic pabulum that even fans can't bring themselves to watch. In the effort to correct the old stereotypes of macho men, damsels in distress, and young people learning from their elders, they have overcompensated with new, far more annoying stereotypes like man child, girl boss, and progressive youth schooling their elders. As for characters and plot development, it is either predictable or non existent, as special effects and pushing a woke message take priority. However, it's important to realize that diminishing the quality of certain movies and television shows don't reflect all productions. As much of it's not the fault of the writers. In fact, there are many well written TV series and movies that have come out of the past few years. Speaking for myself, I finally moved away from old sitcoms that I used to uncritically consume and instead decided to watch new shows like Silicon Valley, The Expanse, Tulsa King, Waco, Queen's Gambit, Kaleidoscope, and Under the Banner of Heaven. All these shows had great writing, and I didn't feel like a loser for watching them as I did when I was watching reruns of The Simpsons, South Park, or Frasier. Understanding this, it becomes possible to appreciate the way writers strike and how a strike might be resolved in a way that results in better quality entertainment. It's not simply the money, though it's certainly a part of it. The conditions for writing have become restrictive and encourage mindless content creation. Thus, some of this had to do with changing formats. These are the days of streaming. In global competition, Korean and Indian cinema in particular have come a long way, but more of it has to do with blockhead producers who hope to exploit the current media landscape to cheap out their writers. This is why much of the debate centers around the use of mini rooms and artificial intelligence. In the case of mini rooms, producers hire a skeleton crew of writers and ask them to sketch out a season of shows or a movie in a few days. These writers are paid minimum salary for those days and then are promptly let go after the first drafts are done. As for staying on the project, making alterations, working with the director and actors, and simply learning to be more competent writer, as was the case for writers in past decades, this doesn't happen anymore. Damn. In conjunction with the writers are often forced to comply with one-step deals, an arrangement where producers are paying a screenwriter for only their first draft of a script and deciding afterwards whether to retain them for future drafts. Oh, so that's how it works. Okay, so I answered my own question. This process effectively distances the writers from their creators and discourages them from taking risks. Their goal is less writing an original story that is locally coherent and develops organically, and more writing a generic outline of a story that suits whatever works for the producer. This can still result in a decent final product, but often than not, the quality of the writing suffers. Moreover, from the writer's perspective, it makes it close to impossible to make a comfortable living. As one representative from the WGA put it, the company's behavior has created a gig economy inside a union workforce, and their immovable stance on this negotiation has betrayed a commitment to further divulging the profession of writing. Wow. So I'll skip around a little bit. Um, Not surprisingly, under these circumstances, most producers have come to see their role as investors looking to profit from a business venture than patrons funding the works of artists. Their overriding goals are reducing risk and maximizing efficiency. This means adapting well-known franchises, spending more on special effects and marketing, playing off the audience's nostalgia, and sticking with formulas. Hence, audiences are treated to absolute dreck. And they call out She-Hulk. Oh man. Like She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Peter Pan, and Wendy and Velma. When writers are tasked with hammering something out in a short amount of time for short sighted producers who have no imagination, such mediocrity becomes inevitable. I told y'all that She Hulk was trash. I told y'all, and y'all did not want to ride with me on that. I said I did not like it, period, right? Anything about it, right? And people disagreed and said that people were just hating on the female superheroes, but it wasn't anything they didn't, it wasn't good writing. That's it. That's the main thing. And they're putting it here. And it's a shame because it could have been so good. There was a Hulk, Saturday cartoon that had She Hulk in it that was way better. So look, all this virtually guarantees the use of AI generated screenplays. After all, if producing a movie is now effectively the same as producing a widget on an assembly line, the human element can be dispensed with. And if something weird or demonic comes out of it, some minimum wage intern can do quality control. So long as someone famous is in it and there is an already built in fan base, success is assured until it isn't. Wow. Yeah, man. Writers have every reason to oppose this, and audiences who care about quality should oppose it too. Producers need to understand that good writing is fundamental to a project's success and popularity. Although it may seem counterintuitive for WGA to strike at the current moment, perhaps they are sensing the frustration among audiences, along with newfound willingness of producers to come to the table and rethink their business strategy. Man, that said, it would be a mistake to try to go back to the way things were. Anyone who believes that this writer's strike will end up like the last one 15 years ago, with the WGA mostly getting what it wanted, is doomed to disappointment. The days of large studio hiring a large team of writers to churn out 20 episodes for a year-long season of a moderately popular TV show are over. Television movies have changed, and more importantly, so have audiences. What used to be known as peak TV quality dramas and thrillers are worked like epic length movies. Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, The Wire has now become something of a baseline. Audiences have choices, including a whole catalog of movies and television for the past decade. They won't watch a show simply because it's on during prime time and there's nothing else on the other channels. It's easy now to research a show, find a streaming service that provides it, and start watching. For younger generations, there are also popular YouTube critics who will tell them if something is worth watching or not. Wow. So, assuming both sides can come to the table and reach an agreement, it's quite possible that American cinema can be revitalized. Filmmaking can return to being a true art form that intellectually and emotionally elevates audiences. Producers might be surprised just how hungry today's audiences are for quality entertainment with good writing, and writers must be surprised at how much power they wield and what's possible in today's media landscape. So let's hope this is the moment and it's finally realized. So this was an article by August Mayrat, and this was in the Action Institute. So he's a third party. He's not part of the filmmakers. He's not part of Hollywood, but he is in the middle. And so that was a pretty decent breakdown of what was going on. And he's saying it can be resolved, but AI is really taking over. I mean, I've seen about the AI scripting. I've seen about, the AI, pretty much everything when it comes to content creation, movie creation. And I don't think they're going to stop. I think they're just going to have two studios that use only AI and studios that use actors. And it's going to be a split. Um, and then even past that, I believe that if studios in Hollywood just go full AI, it's going to start looking more like anime, and then anime is finally going to take over, and then everything's going to be Naruto. And so I mean, that's a realistic look on what will happen. All right, so it can be resolved. So the writers, John Griffin, Jeff Pinkner, and the rest of them are showing support. The actors, Harold Perneau, showing support. What part of the strike affects from? The Canadian affects it, the SAG affects it, the actors, um, And can this be resolved? Yes, it can, but it said it may last months. Now, this does affect interviews. They said it does affect Comic Cons. And so the big Comic Con is San Diego and New York. I believe San Diego Comic Con is going on right now. And so there's nothing, so that's not stopping, but it could affect the New York Comic Con. The New York Comic Con is in October, and that could affect pretty much everything. So let's see if I can find anything on the Comic Cons. So let's see.
Marvel Studios is skipping San Diego Comic-Con this year. This means all those rumored announcements, including the Fantastic Four cast or our first look at Captain America Brave New World, will not be taking place inside Hall H this July. This is a direct reaction to the ongoing writer's strike, but more so a reaction to the looming Screen Actors Guild strike. The Screen Actors Guild has the power to go on strike anytime after June 30th if a new deal with Hollywood studios is not reached. And one of the things that strike would entail is not allowing any actors to do any promotional work for their upcoming projects. And considering SDCC goes down on the weekend of July 21st, it appears as though Marvel Studios is operating under the assumption that yes, a SAG strike will happen. It is worth noting that Marvel Studios has skipped out on Comic-Con before, most recently in 2021 and 2018. How does Marvel missing Comic-Con affect your anticipation for the event? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to the Phase Zero channel for more. Marvel Studios.
So let's see if I can find any more. It's 22. That was probably the best one I'll find for my topic. So for the sake of time, I'll just leave it. I'll leave it there. But I mean, that was the big information. I mean, so they had a date. Everybody knew about the date. Looks like they didn't go to San Diego, and the other big one is the New York, and so that's in September, October, and so they could pull out from there as well. And most of the actors could pull out as well. The big film was Oppenheimer, and I believe the actors walked out of that at the premiere, and the announcement was made that they were going to get their pickets ready, and so that was the first public walkout that we've had, and no word on whether Comic Cons will be affected, but they, of course, they will. TV as well, daytime talk shows, so a lot of different shows will be affected. So, I mean, just like From, we don't know. We have to wait and see. Keep our fingers crossed. We'll hope that it gets resolved and that everyone involved, from the writers to the actors, get what they looking to get, what they need to get, and so they can keep being artistic and keep making that quality. And let's hope that they don't allow this to turn into Terminator 3 or Terminator period and let the AI take over, Skynet take over. Let's hope they keep it people based. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just wanted to come on here quick and go over a couple of details, talk about this writer's strike. There really wasn't much else going on. I posted some other videos on my page. Go check them out. Who are the Goose Kids? Who are the Hikers? And I'm working on some more videos. So of course, as always, thank you guys for checking out my channel. Thank you for checking out my page. Thank you guys for all the subscribers. And stay tuned, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.